How are you today?
Hi, Alicia. I'm
Hi,
good.
Sue.
It's been a long time. Yeah.
I
Uh,
cannot believe it's so crazy sometimes because the history that you have with somebody that is so profound for you, but yet this is our first time Zoom calling. I've been on the phone with you maybe once or twice. But still you have this like really profound impact on me. And I feel like I know you really know you, like really, really know you. That's how I feel. So
well,
it's
I
just
love
so,
that. Yeah. Well, I feel the same way. You know, the first time I saw you in person, you had so much presence and you were practicing the cello. And I
yes,
thought, oh my goodness, she's actually learning the cello for this role. And you did.
yes, yes,
And
which
you
was,
worked it.
oh my gosh, which was obviously for Secret Life of Bees, which,
Right.
is
I
not,
should have said
not
that.
only one of the most impactful books, for me as a reader. I love reading. I'm a huge reader. My mother introduced me to the love of reading. You see, like it's a real thing. It's a real thing.
I love
And
that picture so much.
oh my gosh,
And
so
it was
cool.
written in the stars or somewhere that you were supposed to be in that movie because that preceded the movie.
Yeah, no, it did. And when they, when I first got, when they first asked me, would you be interested in being in The Secret Life of Bees? I jumped on my bed. I ran around the room in circles. I was like, yes, yes, yes. There was a time when there was some kind of conflict with the shooting schedule and maybe my touring schedule, something. And they were kind of like, well, maybe you're not gonna be able to do it. I was like, no, you don't understand. Like, there's nothing that I'm doing more than this. It's just been such a beautiful experience to be able to not only fall in love with The Secret Life of Bees, but be a part of bringing it to life, be introduced to you there and your work, from a young girl, and then, fall in love with the invention of wings, which was another story to me that was so powerful and completely, honestly, the invention of wings is the reason, 100%, the reason why in my book, More Myself, I did that beginning chapters with different perspectives of the different people that were a part of my life. Because when I read The Inventions of Wings, the way that each chapter went back and forth between the two
Mm-hmm.
women, it really showed me how much you can gain insight of a person's personal story when you hear it in two different ways. And that is exactly what inspired me to put the words at the beginning of More Myself from other people's perspective. So this is what I'm talking about, how you're all up in my
I love
spirit.
it. I love it. It's, I saw so many connections between my character, Anna, in the Book of Longings and your memoir. I mean, things like when you that word Egypt dropped into your head, it for me that was like your soul talking.
Epic Pokemon Go. This is my son. He
That's
came up to me.
hi.
You want to say hi? Come say hi to Miss Sue. You can, but you have to come out. All right, I love you. I'll see you in a bit. I had to use my phone. I didn't know I had to. All right.
Oh, how sweet. Yeah, that was such a powerful moment in your memoir that I felt it, and I thought that word came from the deepest place in you, from your soul. And
Yes.
in The Invention of Wings, Sarah has a moment like that when it says, go north, go
Right.
north.
Right. When you
And
just know, there's these
you just
moments where
know.
you
It
just
just comes
know.
from really deeply inside, and you follow that, and you did. And it was a powerful thing to read about in your memoir.
Wow. Thank you so much. And speaking of, here's my copy. I could not wait to order this copy. You're one of the authors that I'm always telling everybody, have you read, have you seen, have you heard, have you, even my mother, who was the one that put me on to Secret Life of Bees, I was like, did you get Suman Kid's new book? So she, I'm so fascinated. First of all, a couple of things with Anna in your news story, and overall I'm fascinated with how you take historic moments and allow them to inspire you to somewhat fictionalize in a way to create a story that really talks about what's happening at the time or at a certain time, and in so many ways what's happening right now. So how in the world do you know the themes that you kind of want to speak about? Do you know what you want to bring forth? Or does it also, like how Egypt and how Anna, or Sarah was called to go north, does that just call you? Is it in your sleep? Like, what happens?
Well, I think both of those things happen for me. It starts with that voice of the soul, so to speak, the voice of the imagination. There's this place in us where all that good stuff is, and we have to make a portal in there and access it as creative people. It can be everything from a dream to that voice that says go north or Egypt, or it can be your imagination browsing around. I mean, it's just a rich place, and I just try to listen to that. But I also try to use my conscious mind to curate all that and make it have an actual plot. So
right.
For me, writing is a balancing between soulful writing, which is kind of, you just sort of follow your thread, and conscious applied craft. So it's working that out. But to answer your question, I don't know, so much of it is a mystery to me, kind of what happens there, and I like to have the mystery, but it's taking imagination and history and seeing how they intersect. And my biggest thing in writing a historical novel is I want it to be relevant. I want it to speak to people today, because those words are my activism. And when I read your memoir, your activism is so powerful. And what I loved about it is that you didn't look away. You went to Africa. You looked unflinchingly at the suffering, and you didn't look away. And that's what I tried to do when I wrote The Invention of Wings, and particularly was to not look away from that painful time. And in this novel, The Book of Longings, trying to do that as well, to look at how women are devalued and marginalized and silenced and not look away. So you did that beautifully in your own life and in your book. Wow,
that's amazing. Thank you so much. And how do you think that how do women specifically, do you think, find more of who they actually are? And how did you make sure that Anna found the courage? Because I think that's what I've experienced. It's like, how do you actually find the courage? First of all, how do you find out who that is first? Like, because in some ways you don't even know who you actually is, because you've become so programmed, and you've become so used to being, I guess the palatable version, or the nice version, or the one that is acceptable to the masses, or the one that's acceptable to the family, or whatever we do that slowly uncovers and covers and covers and layers the actuality of who we are. So first, it's like, who is that actually? So who you are actually is the first step. And then how do you become brave enough to be that, even when you know people are not going to like it. And most of the time, people who are you really love the most are not going to like it, you know?
Yeah.
How do we find our way to that? How did Anna find her way to that in a time even more obviously? I think, you know, what happens now in our times now is that it's still as oppressive in many ways, but it's just so covered up that sometimes it seems like it's progressed, but then we realize it hasn't. So how did Anna do that? And how do you think we can do that?
I think it's the most important journey a woman can take, really, is to come to her authentic self. And I hate to be just a continuous font of praise for your book, but yours is. I don't really hate it. I love it, but
okay, good.
I just don't want to embarrass you.
No, thank you. I receive it. I've learned how to receive that.
Well, you do this journey of self-discovery largely in the book. And I think that is what Anna's doing essentially, but it's the classic journey for women to come to this authentic place in themselves. And I mean, I had a hard time with that. It took me till I was in my 30s before I could strip away all that enculturation and be able to find the real voice in me, the real, what I was about, who I was. And
how did you do it?
Hard. It was hard, you know.
How did you though? How did this dawn on you one day? Was it like layers and levels of being sick of, or realizing, like, being sick of swallowing yourself down and finally just bursting through? Was it like, did it pop like anger? Did it simmer like stew, and over time you just realized what was in it? Or how did you do it?
Well, for me, it was I got really homesick for myself. I just was almost sick and restless and longing. I mean, there's that word, but I longed for myself. I longed to write. My authentic self has to do with creating language and story. And, you know, I know you said in your book, More Myself, that the piano was you came home to yourself when you
right.
And it was your home. And my home and Anna's home in the novel was when she picks up reed pens and papyrus, and she goes inside and finds that creativity. I guess it was finding that for me, getting really homesick, fed up. You know, I told someone the other day, when I was 30, I had a brick house, a picket fence, a dog and 2 toddlers, and a husband. You know, and Sexton Rhoda. Yeah.
The life.
But I was miserable about myself because I wasn't writing, and I had turned I just hadn't taken hold of it. So you have to you lose yourself and you find yourself, you know.
Yeah.
But that's the journey.
Gosh. Wow, that's amazing. And I do feel like that is part of it too, the losing and the finding. For me, I think that it was definitely, it was a very specific moment that triggered me, because up until that moment, I guess I had been quite asleep, or at least I thought that I wasn't asleep. I thought I was so awakened, and I thought I was so empowered, and I thought I was so, you know, so much of a feminist, and I was all these things that I thought that I was. But then, you know, I couldn't even leave my house without makeup on, without feeling like, or being fully dressed or whatever, without feeling like people would judge me or somehow, you know, have an opinion about me that would be negative. And I know that seems kind of trivial, and it is trivial, but the truth of the fact is that it finally hit me in a way that I could see it. And it took something trivial like that to finally say, whoa, I am completely subscribing to like these impressions or these perceptions of perfection that, you know, I thought I was so unique and an individual, and shunning the whatever, but I'm not. And then actually I'm just as stuck. I'm just as stuck as I thought I wasn't. So that to me, and that definitely opened a whole through line of discovery that I needed to put voice to. I realized I didn't even know how to really share my own opinion in so many ways. I was so good at trying to make everything sound right or sound politically correct or, be unoffensive to whomever that I didn't even know how to just give my own opinion fearlessly. And
I know.
right?
I mean, that's all about voice for me, just that wanting to have your real voice that comes from your true self. And for a long time, I grew up in a small town in the South that was largely used to write The Secret Life of Bees. And I grew up in pre-feminist South.
Right.
So I don't have to say much more than that, but I could not for a long time really step outside of the culture that shaped me. It takes courage, I think, for women to strip that away and voice their truth, to offer their experience and who they are as their truth. So it's a journey for all of us. And I want to say one more thing about that. In the Book of Longings, Anna calls this her largeness.
What does that mean? Because that's good.
Yeah.
We need that. Let's use that so we can take that.
We all got it. We all got it. But we often don't know we have this aspect to ourselves. And there's all kind of ways to describe it. I've called it our inner genius, our particular genius. Every woman, every man's got one, but women have a very particular and special kind of genius that I see as a connection to their heart, their mind, their soul. And when you integrate all of that, you've got some big largeness. And so Anna, her prayer was, bless the largeness in me, even when I fear it.
That's it right there. No, because it's scary. Because it's scary.
It is scary because what it demands of us to be so visible and so audible in the world, like you were saying a minute ago, putting yourself out there. So I was thinking about this last night, Alicia. Anna has an aunt who's very fierce, who reminds me of your mom.
Oh,
because your mom, she's fierce, she's something. Yeah.
She is.
And so Anna's aunt, Yaltha, blesses her largeness. She'll say, my largeness is to bless the largeness in you. And it just seemed to me that your mom did that for you over and over,
Oh my gosh. Oh my
I
God.
love
That
it.
is, that's, first of all, that prayer that Anna says is amazing. And may we all just take those words and just say them, bless the largeness in us, even when we're fearful of it, because that is, I think that's kind of the majority of what's holding us back. It's, it's the fear that we won't achieve the dream. It's the fear that we're not good enough. It's the fear that someone else won't approve of it and they won't like it, therefore will be judged. It's the fear that, it's all these fears that we have that stop us before we even start. Before we even start, we cut ourselves off at the pass. And I would love to adopt that prayer for all of us, so we can just go ahead and say that at night, say that every night.
Yeah.
And
well, it's certainly my prayer too. Yeah.
Yeah. Absolute. Mine too. It's still, even with all the more myselfness and all the awakeningness and all the, much more closer to my truth and my courage and my spirit and all these things, I still have to remind myself to be unafraid of my largeness. I do. And so I really, and that's okay. That's okay. I think that we I think that's good to know, because we all probably feel similarly, you know, and certain times you feel more valiant than others. But, you know, when you don't, like, just say the prayer, you know, say the prayer and
Yeah.
keep on pushing.
Yes,
So what
absolutely.
do you think about motherhood? And I like how I was actually thinking about when you brought up Yaltha and what she said to Anna about motherhood, and she was she feeling like Anna wasn't fit for motherhood, or what was her kind of feelings about motherhood?
No, Yaltha just had Anna's number real good, and she understood that Anna is one of those women who really just didn't want children and wasn't meant to have children. I mean, she understood even in the first century that she had a choice. I think that's rare. Of course, she had a lot of girl power going in the first century, and
Right.
she was uncommon in many ways, which I did purposely because, you know, as I said, I wanted people to say, I got a lot of Anna in me. And there's a lot of me and Anna. I wanted that intimate identification so that they could experience this empathetic journey with her. But Anna just didn't want children because she felt she couldn't do her work and have her largeness if she was a mother. That's a sad thing, really. But so she does have to struggle, I think, a lot with what she's going to mother. And she has a dream in which that decides it for her in the story. She goes to sleep and she dreams that she gives birth. And when she lifts the child up, it's a baby girl, and she recognizes it's herself, that she has given birth to herself. And again, I think it's a woman's journey. You know, we have to birth ourselves at some point. And this was her moment to do that. And that's what she mothered a lot. And she mothered her writing. So that was her thing. But I love that women have choices about all that, you know.
Oh my gosh, I think that's so powerful on so many levels, because one, you know, a lot of the times as women, we are made to feel, another thing that we're kind of given on these societal levels, that we are supposed to do it all. You know, we're supposed to not only be the most incredible boss, creative person, individual, we're supposed to do all that. We're supposed to reach all of that. Then we're supposed to, you know, be married and be an amazing wife. And we're supposed to be, you know, not only beautiful and stunning, but also strong and powerful and have a successful job. And then we're supposed to also be able to have kids and do it all and juggle it all. And then we've completed the whole picture of everything that we could possibly do, and we've done it successfully. And I think that, to your point, you know, there's a lot of versions of stories that we get to author, you know, and we feel tremendous guilt about, you know, not being a parent or not being a mother, or we feel tremendous guilt about not being a wife, or we feel tremendous guilt about choosing our career, or we feel tremendous guilt about choosing our kids over, you know, or choosing our family, whatever it is that we've decided, however we can be a happy, full human, that we've had to sacrifice something, because you have to something has to be sacrificed. You're going to sacrifice yourself, you're going to sacrifice time,
That's
you're
right.
going to sacrifice something. You know, you can't, it's just impossible. There's only like so much of the pie. You got to start to sacrifice something, and it's your choice. And I think we all get filled with this tremendous guilt about what we're choosing. And definitely if we choose ourselves, often if we choose ourselves, we feel so much guilt around it. And I think
Because
that's
that
really
is the ultimate betrayal of what we're taught. You know,
Ooh.
you're supposed to be selfless. You're supposed to give. Yeah. And the ultimate, the ultimate thing is the specter of bad motherhood somebody might put over your head, you know. So that's the worst. I know exactly what you mean. It's very hard to be enough, and we are enough. So we feel like we're not enough, but we really are enough.
Yes. And I think that's so beautiful that you brought this out of Anna. And this is something that I've recognized throughout my journey. And that, you know, it's actually really important to find the space for you and for what that means, to your point of going back to when you had it all, the picket fence, the husband, the 2 kids, the dogs, the everything, but you hadn't figured out how to find this space for you yet. And so you were miserable. And same even for me today, for you today, it's a kind of a constant process. You have to rediscover the space you need for yourself and how to give it to yourself. And I think, you know, even for my kids, they have to see that I value myself enough to also give time to myself. And that, you know, just now I said, I can't help you right now. Right now, this moment right now, I cannot help you with what you're asking me, because I have something very special that I'm doing that's very special to me. And that this is the time that I need to be able to have this and feel this special moment. And so I think it's okay. Sometimes we feel guilty, like we couldn't help them, we couldn't do everything, we couldn't be there every single thing of every single moment. And I think it's really, really beautiful that you brought up that, Anna, giving birth to yourself, and that's a lifelong process. You kind of have to rebirth yourself all the time, you know?
Oh yeah, all the time. Yeah.
Wow.
I think it's birthing ourselves and then mothering ourselves and knowing how to nurture ourselves. I mean, imagine, someone said once, if I were mothering myself, the social services would come and get me because I would be such a bad mother to myself. I said, well, you better get with it then.
Oh, I get it. Oh, that's terrible.
Yeah. She said she just couldn't be a good mother to herself, and that she feared social services would take her away. But that just goes to show, I reassured her they wouldn't, but it just goes to show how we need to be better moms to ourselves too.
That's beautiful. That is really something. And I do hope that we can keep teaching ourselves that and talking about that and being examples to that, even, you know, with our families, with our kids, with our loved ones. You know, and I said the other day in this interview that the you know, the ability to say no was such a long road for me. I just did not know how. I didn't even know that I couldn't, like I said, it was similar to the opinion piece. I couldn't even put into words that it was good for me or not good for me. I didn't even have the consciousness or the wherewithal to even identify that. It was so much about going at top speed and so much about doing as much as possible that would, you know, check all the boxes, that I didn't even know how to say, like, you know, kind of think of it, that doesn't feel great to me, you know. And I think that's such an important thing for us, you know, going back to the mothering of yourself, going back to the consciousness and recognizing who you are actually, and just recognizing what feels good for you and what doesn't, and being just fine with being honest. Like, practice being honest about what actually feels good for you. And if it doesn't, you know, it's okay to say, that doesn't, I don't love that. Like, that's not really resonating with me. And I, you know, and I think sometimes, again, back to the guilt, if we can't please everybody or be the thing that everyone wants, we feel some type of guilt. And I would love for us to mother ourselves, and just like your mother would be like, she don't need to do that, no, she's not coming, because no, like, you kind of have to do that for yourself. Like, that doesn't work for me. And so I that's something I've learned, and I'm really working continuously on just in the moment, because I used to be a person I had to think so much about it and come back to it in the moment, saying, I'm uncomfortable with that. Let me think about it for a sec. I'll come back with a little more detail. Sometimes you do need to step away for a bit, but just, it's okay. In that moment, you can claim how you feel. So this is so beautiful. This is incredible. Wow.
We just need to tell our stories, you know. I think I love to have women telling their stories, telling their truth. And it emboldens us, you know. It emboldens me to hear you telling your story. And I think there are a lot of women that are going to identify with that and love that and say, oh my gosh, Alicia Keys, she doubted herself, or she struggled with saying no. I mean, we all do. And
Yes.
I love that you tell that story. And I was thinking of this in your book. I love how you have these passages from other people.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Michelle Obama, come on.
That's pretty good, right?
That is not bad, Alicia.
Thank you.
Wow.
Wow. And she's a
But
beautiful
yeah, she is. Oh gosh. But I felt like you were creating a little family, you know. It felt that way, like you were gathering this family of people that weren't necessarily all your real family.
Right.
And
Yes.
mm-hmm.
Yes, and I've
And we do
learned that you're so right, because I didn't do that often in the beginning, and I didn't know how to reach out to people. And I think that that's exactly what you're saying, is sometimes you make family with people that are not necessarily blood, and they become the deepest things in your life, and they can really give you so much. And for a long time, I didn't know how to reach out to people, because I didn't want, again, I was concerned that they would maybe not have the time, or maybe it'd be too much, or, you know, all these things that we create in our own heads, that we think we make the choice for other people, and we shouldn't do that. We should really try to just reach out to the people that resonate with you and say, man, I really appreciate how you, or how did you handle this? Or even asking people how they got through things, which I think for us women, I think we sometimes feel like we have to figure it all out on our own, or we have all the answers, or whatever the case. So yeah, finding family and creating family in your own little unique way is really powerful.
That's a touchstone with the Book of Longings too, actually, because my character Anna ends up in Egypt. So she creates a family, and the community of women become her family in the end, you know. And I guess this is a theme. I'm just realizing this is a theme I keep going back to, because I did that in The Secret Life of Bees, you know. Lily ended up with a family she didn't imagine, that was her real family, but not her biological family.
Right.
So, but I love how you did that. You wove a real sense of connection and family with these people. Yeah. That it was working. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So how, you know, on an ending note, just because this is so beautiful, and I'm so grateful that we get to, again, like I said, this is just truly meant to be our connection. The way that we're interwoven in each other's lives is subtle and so meaningful. And I even here, you know, once again, we get to talk with each other and have these parallels that are so powerful, and I just love it. And I just, again, going back to that largeness within, which to me is not only the theme of your book, the theme of my book, and the theme of our lives. What do you want to leave people with how they can continue to find their largeness, or nurture their largeness, or be unafraid of their largeness, or just like, what do you want to leave them with in regards to their largeness?
What comes to me is a line in the novel that Yotha, this aunt, says to Anna. She says, return to your longings and they will teach you everything. So I would say, listen to your longings, because your longings are, in my mind anyway, the voice of a voice that is really eloquent, that's coming from a deep place in you. And I mean the most authentic longings that are coming from, let's say, the soul. Listen to them. Make a space where you can really say, what lies deep in me that I long for, because there's something to it. There is a reason that we have that. And then I would say, find the passion to, usually if you have a longing and it's really a part of what your destiny is about, the passion's there. The passion comes organically and naturally. And so I will lead with this. Anna creates an incantation bowl. She does this in the very first scene of the book. Well, she's given one, I should say. She's given an incantation bowl. Now that was this bowl that you write a prayer in a kind of spiraling way inside. And her aunt tells her, you write the prayer that lies deepest at the bottom of your heart. That's your longing. Write that. So Anna thinks and thinks, what is she going to write? And I will not quote the whole prayer, but I will lead with 2 lines. She writes, bless the largeness in me, even when I fear it. When I am dust, sing these words over my bones. She was a voice.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
Yeah, that's Anna's prayer. It's my prayer. And I hope it helps people find their prayer.
Yes, yes. And I think that's honestly, that's all of our prayer, to be unafraid of who we are, to be unafraid of the parts that are coming together, the parts that seem kind of off, be unafraid of the lessons that we're learning, the ways that we might not know it all, the ways we feel invulnerable, and realizing that they are showing us where we want to go, the longings that we're looking for, and that they're a part of what makes us who we're meant to be. So I think that the journey of it all is to your point, really incredible. And this has been such a dream. No, honestly, I'm so
for me. No. And listen, I think everybody needs to go get your book, more myself, because it is like reading how to do this in a story that's very engaging. And I loved the book. Thank you for that.
Thank you so much. And thank you for your beautiful, gorgeous, I mean, this thing right here, look at the goldness. I mean, you just, all right. It's a jewel. It's a jewel, right? The jewel in here.
I have to tell you, do you see this?
Oh, that's good.
That's good.
That's real good.
So like mine is really decorated.
Oh my gosh, that means everything.
This has been wonderful. Thank you, Alicia, for this conversation. It's been so good to touch base with you again.
You too, Sue. Oh my goodness, you too. And shoot, maybe I should I prep myself to be Anna, or like what we doing? Let me know.
Yeah,
I'm gonna work on
let's
that.
do it. I like it. I like that idea.
Listen, I'm so sending you so much love, just virtual hugs and kisses. And I do hope to see you so soon. And are you doing well during this very unique time in our lives?
I am. We're all buckled down here in my home and getting through. I hope you are too.
We are. We really are. And sending you so many cuddles. And I really hope to talk to you very soon. Thank you for everything, just on many levels.
Thank you, Alicia, and sending you much love too. Bye.
Bye, Sue. Best ever. See you soon.